guys, Mark Holthe here, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. I'm all gussied up today. I've got a conference that I'm preparing for that I'm going to be speaking at here in just a few hours. But I wanted to jump on and record another video designed to help you guys navigate your way through express entry. Now, for some of you, this will be video number 1 for you. And why? Because you probably already have your ITA, your invitation to apply, and now you're trying to figure out exactly what you need to do to get all the documents collected that you need to ensure your electronic application for permanent residence is submitted properly. And some people may think, wow, you've got your ITA, there's nothing to worry about. You simply submit your documents and the glorious confirmation of permanent residence, that approval, it will come in just a few months and there's nothing else to worry about it. Well, if you think that way, you are sadly mistaken. Actually, once you get your ITA, the hard work begins. So you've stated in the information within your profile, your qualifications, your education, everything. You've just listed it. But now it's time to prove it. So those of you who think you're in clear sailing with your ITA, you better be careful. In my previous videos, if you have not watched them, I discussed one of the situations that I had with one of my clients, MD, I call him, who had failed to get the proper police clearance from a country and his application was refused. Now, some of you may think, well, that's no big deal. So when an application gets refused, it's not the end of the world. You just reapply. Well, I don't know if you guys have been watching these rounds of invitations lately, but they've been climbing up and up. And the lowest score we've seen, at least to this stage, was back in May 31st, 2017, and it was 413 points. Now, things may have changed because these videos, people will have been watching these videos for a long time. But the reality is, you could have been the person that was drawn at a low level. And in fact, MD was right around, I think it was 419 points that he had. Well, guess what happened, guys? The draw, after he's put his profile back in, has never come down that low again. And he's gotten 1 year older. So he loses all of those age points as well. So you can imagine the devastation for him because he made one little mistake with his document. And in fairness, he was relying on helpful advice out there, guys, from people who had done it before him, who had gotten their applications approved. And all he did was follow their pathway. And that is a pet peeve of mine. People who've done it once, got the approval, and therefore figure they are the experts, when in all honesty, they got lucky because what they'd submitted, the officer who was adjudicating their application didn't have an issue with it and approved. Well, guess what? Every officer is different. They have discretion. So in the case of MD, his officer didn't like it. So he just said, sorry, your application is incomplete. You can refile. But when you have to resubmit your profile and get another invitation to apply, the whole world, the whole landscape could have changed. And in the case of MD, his ability to immigrate to Canada is more than likely gone, unless he can find a way to get a job offer or get into school. But once you start getting older, it's even more difficult to get those. So there's my little caveat. That's my warning. So today, I am going to start in this first video of this third series of emails and videos designed to help you get through express entry safely. In this one, I want to share you some insight on one of the most popular questions that is posted on the internet. Now, obviously, it's one that I get all the time, but I've already said that each of the things I'm covering are one of the most common or most popular. Well, guys, it's because they are. Where do I get all these questions from? It's you. In my Facebook group that at the time of recording this video is over 110,000 people. These are the common questions that we get all the time. And today it is, and I'm going to pop it up here on the screen. What if my employer, right here, guys, what if my employer won't give me a reference letter? Or I'll qualify that a little bit. What if my employer will not give me a letter that is complete, that has all of the essential components that I need? And so I'm going to help you. People are wondering, what do I do if I can't get the reference letter, I'm going to pull this off. If I can't get it, then how do I prove my work experience? All right, let's start from the very beginning. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to share my messy screen with you guys. That's actually not too bad. I love this program now because it blocks off my messy screen. So I'm going to blow this up. And I think, yes, indeed, it is showing. That's great. I'm going to, this is for employer reference letters. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to look up CIC completeness check EE. And that takes me right to here. And the reason I'm taking you here, next I'm going to search for proof of work experience. Voila, here it is. These are the essential components that you need to have in order to have a reference letter meet IRCC's minimum requirements. So I'm going to skip through all of this and I'm going to get right to the essential components. So you need a reference letter, and maybe I can even make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Oh, look at that. I could probably make it leave it. Oh, that's crazy big. Okay. Now there's not a person on this planet that can't read this. Okay. But it's important. So I need you to be able to see it. So reference letter or experience letter from the employer, which, so this is the ideal world, guys. This is what we're shooting for. It has all this stuff, information, contact information, blah, blah, blah. It should indicate all positions held while employed at the company. And this is the most important part, include the following details. So this is the magic, guys. You have to be able to demonstrate each of these things in your reference letter. And why? Because they're the minimum requirements in order to get your foreign work experience, or your work experience generally speaking, to get it accepted. So you need to have your job title right here. It needs to list your duties and responsibilities, which most reference letters never do. So this is one that's commonly missing. Your job status, is this your current job? Are you working there? If not, then what were the dates worked for the company? When did you start? When did you finish? And then this is another one that's commonly missing. Well, both of these last ones, the number of work hours per week. Why? Because they need to know if you're working 29 hours per week, which is not considered to be full-time, or you're working 30 hours, which is, or more. And your annual salary plus benefits. Why? Because the work has to be paid. It can't be volunteer. So there you go, guys. This part here, this is the essential stuff. This is the goods. So once you know what the standard is, then you go back to your employer and you say, hello, dear employer, would you be willing to issue me a reference letter? And I need it to state all of these things. And then they come back and say, oh, well, we have a policy in our company that we do not issue reference letters with all of that information. In fact, we'll just issue this bare bones letter that confirms you were employed by us and pretty much nothing else. So what do? The first thing I want you guys to understand is that you do not take this requirement lightly. You need to go and use everything in your toolbox to ensure that you find a way to prove each of the things that I've just shown you are required in the reference letter. So if you can't get it from your employer, then you have to find a different way to do it. The third thing, think outside the box. Every person is different. Just because someone else used a certain document doesn't necessarily mean that that document is going to be enough for you. So take the time that you need to make sure that you go to whatever lengths to prove those components that IRCC requires of you. And just a little tip, third-party documents are always better than self-serving attestations. So a simple letter from you might be useful if you're explaining generally the problem with your company, the fact that they don't issue you reference letters. You can provide a little explanation, but don't ever expect your own attestation saying, I worked at this job, these were my hours, these are my duties. Guys, that will not hold water. So here is the awesome content, free for you guys. This is my goods. This is the juiciest stuff I've got. Well, it's not quite the full goods, because if you click on the link on this page, you can actually subscribe to my express entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself, which not only explains this, but shows you how to do it, gives you samples of reference letters. It gives you an actual visual and a complete walkthrough of how you complete your EAPR. And for those of you who say, well, I'm pretty good with that, and I took your guide, I loved it, it's so totally helped me, but I've got a few extra questions, you can always book a consultation with me, or you can engage my firm, my law firm, to help you and give you complete peace of mind to filing your application yourself. But that's all secondary, guys. The primary object of this video is to teach. So here's what we've got. This, at least in my mind, are some of the possible alternatives that you can consider. Now remember, these are in no specific order. They are just me completely thinking outside the box, considering all other options that are available, and they're used to satisfy each of those elements that the government requires. So, job offer letters. Did they give you a letter that talked about your position when you were originally engaged? Did they post for your position? So is your position now being posted, or the one you worked at, out on the internet? Or is there a job posting somewhere that describes what your job was, or the one that you performed, and how it's the duties and the wage and all those kinds of things? Was there a job posting? Is there internal documents within your company? Because you may still be working for the company, or you may have friends where there's internal job descriptions that the company has for themselves that you could use. Did they pay you? Okay, obviously, if they did, that work experience could count for you. But did you have pay stubs that can provide some of this information? And I'm just going to pound through these fast, guys, because these all are just suggestions, and you can pause this video at any time and write these down, because this is gold. All right, bank statements. If they paid you in cash, that's always a problem. Did you deposit that cash into your bank account? Well, that's great. Maybe there's a statement for it. Did they wire or automatically deposit directly into your account your pay, and so that you've got bank statements that show those deposits? When you left, did they give you a relieving or termination letter that confirms thank you for your service in this occupation? That's one other thing that you can use. Now remember, this is when your employer is not cooperative at all and doesn't give you anything. But each of these can be used even to supplement an employer reference letter that's deficient. What else do we have? Did you apply for a visa to another country for that company? If you're with a global company, sometimes they were required to explain your job in order to get a visa for another country. So maybe that's the case for you if you've worked for a global entity. Okay, did you get a letter because you were trying to secure a loan from a bank or for other finance purposes? The bank often will issue those letters to confirm your income, for example. All right, so what are some other ones? An email from HR confirming that they do not provide detailed reference letters. And some may think, well, what's the purpose of that? Well, it just reassures the government that genuinely the reason you don't have a reference letter is because it's a company policy. So you've done everything that you can. Promotion letters. Did you get promoted from one position to another? Income tax returns. Every year on your return, you list your employment income. Did you get any letters of commendation or recognition from your company? How about your original employment contract? You know, often those contracts will stipulate a lot of different terms. Did you get any performance appraisals done or reviews where the person who's reviewing you keep a copy of that review? That often happens, and people don't think about including those. Do you have records of employment? For instance, in Canada every year, our employers are required to provide a T4, which is a statement of the employment income that is earned for that year. So, or on termination, we're giving an ROE, a record of employment, that is basically a statement that, you know, you worked for this company and you are now being terminated. But here is the thing that lots of people commonly will point to as number one, but I want to take it to another level. So a sworn statement from someone. Well, I'm going to give you my hierarchy of who I think is the most important and in the order of importance. So this sworn statement usually comes in the form of a statutory declaration, but here's my order of priority. One, if you have an immediate supervisor that's still working with the company, they're perfect. Get that sworn statement from them. If they can attest to everything that letter requires, great, do it. But don't just rely on this statement. Use all of these other things. If I back up here, all of these things that I've already explained to you on this slide and this, try to get everything. So get this from your immediate supervisor. If they're not available, then is there an HR manager or personnel officer that can issue you something like that, informally or formally, because of the lack of the company's policy to issue them to you? Do you have a coworker or colleague that worked alongside you that legitimately can attest to your duties and what you did, that's currently working with the company? So there's the top 3 list. But what if the company's shut down? Or what if you don't have someone that you know currently working because it's been a while? Well, then go with an immediate supervisor if you can contact them that's no longer with the company. Then guess what? A coworker that's no longer with the company. I think you guys get it. And finally, if you can't get sworn statements, get whatever you can. Even if it's an email that you get from a past supervisor or coworker. Now, obviously, it's not going to carry a lot of weight, but it will help. And so all of these things that I've talked about here, you are going to use in conjunction with your circumstances. And it may be that you only need to satisfy just the wage. It's not listed. Or the hours worked. You need to find something to prove that. But that's exactly what you need to do, guys. And yeah, that's awesome. And if you do these things, remember that your job, the onus is on you to prove to that officer that you actually had that work experience you're trying to claim. All right. So there you go. Another quick tip for you guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope that it helps you as you're navigating your way through this crazy world that we call express entry. Don't forget, and I'm telling you guys, you can get access to everything right now if you click on the link here or above or wherever it is on this page to take you to my express entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. And guys, I haven't put any testimonials on, but it covers all the stuff and it takes it to the next level to what I'm explaining to you here. An actual demonstration. I would also encourage you that if you want to book a consult, do it. Click on the link below. It will be the best money that you've paid. And in a short period of time, I can clear up your concerns and give you the peace of mind. Because guys, my goal here is not to have you lose an opportunity that you have coming to Canada. Everybody can puzzle things out. If they spend long enough to figure it out and they have enough tries, they get their application refused, eventually you're going to figure out how to do it. And you know what? That's how a lot of the overseas consultants figured out how to do some of these applications themselves. They learned on the backs of you. They learned from the mistakes that they made with other clients, and then they learned, boy, I shouldn't do that again. Well, I don't want you to fall into that trap. I want you guys to succeed. I don't want your opportunities to be lost forever like MD. And I'm genuine with that. That's why I'm doing all of this. So click on the link if you'd like to book a consult. Definitely consider purchasing a subscription to the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide. And if you just want peace of mind and you say, you know what, Mark, you're my guy, then click on the link as well below and you can be set up completely with my law firm, and I'll represent you through the whole process and give you complete peace of mind. All right, enough blithering on. I'm excited to get to our next video that I'm going to be recording on another component of this crazy process that we call express entry. Take care, guys.